Cool. I am Pasha Marlowe, and this is the Let Pleasure Be the Measure podcast. I am coming to you today with a new friend and an inspiration for all things play, Gary Ware, who is the CEO and the founder of Breakthrough Play, whose mission is to help people become more creative, confident, and collaborative using play and improvisation. I am so lit up every single time I see you and talk to you, Gary, and I appreciate you being here so very much.
Oh
Thank you for being
my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, Pasha. I'm super excited. I remember our first conversation, and afterwards, you would think that I just got done like exercising or something because I was lit up with all the endorphins and dopamine and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that's what happens when amazing people connect.
Yeah, such great connection and fun storytelling. And of course, we laugh, but we also tell stories of our heartaches and our traumas and how those were catalyst moments to come to this place of play. And I think we shared that almost immediately. So I always appreciate these wholehearted, vulnerable conversations that people are willing to have. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So well, I already opened that floodgate. So why don't we just start there? My
Yes.
catalyst my catalyst moment for going into this field of play and pleasure and laughter was fear of my youngest son dying from a chronic illness, which he's still suffering from. And we use play every single day to get through the day and to keep that kid in the game. So for me, it is life saving. And ironically, or coincidentally, perhaps, you created a TED Talk called what?
Play saved my life.
Yes.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I was suffering from a chronic illness called burnout, and in adulting, that is something where, because in my talk, I talk about how when I was younger, I was that playful kid. We share another similarity, ADHD,
Yeah.
and growing up, it was something that I was, we talk like in the 80s, it was like, oh yeah, it's a thing, but not really. So I wasn't actually formally diagnosed until uh, I was in my 20s. However, as a kid, I was full of play. Play was my jam. And my dad, he gave me some words of wisdom that said, son, play is great, but just make sure you get your work done. That's important. And when you have a structured environment like school, yeah, that works. Like, you're going to be excited to play, and it's going to keep you moving through your work, and then vice versa, and it's this awesome cycle. Well, fast forward to being an adult and being out of college and being into my career, I heard my dad's voice in my head: son, you can play when the work is done. And
Mm,
I really wanted to play, but I felt guilty.
mm,
I, thought like, well, I still have so much to do. Maybe I should play later. And I was suffering from what Dr. Stuart Brown calls play deprivation. And I, on paper, everything looked great. I had the career of my dreams. I, I could just check everything off. I've done all these things, but on the inside, I was feeling broken. I was feeling miserable. I would go on vacations and I would come back, and within like days or it seemed like hours, I felt like I needed another vacation. I was experiencing anxiety. I was experiencing all kinds of like mental health situations, but I didn't know what was up. And fortunate for me, the thing that was the anecdote
mm,
came by accident when I took an improv class,
mm,
and I got that experience of play. And after 2 hours of just that sort of playful environment, I left feeling reinvigorated. And it was like, what just happened? And I was hooked. And in my TED talk, I talk about how most people on Sundays are dreading Mondays, but I was excited for Monday because that was improv. And I started talking about, because I had that consistent avenue of play in my life, things started shifting. The everything was still the same. I was still working. There were still challenges, but my whole perspective shifted.
mm,
Instead of seeing the world as a proving ground where I was trying to prove myself, prove my worthiness. I was seeing it as a playground of possibilities. And I know I'm from Southern California and it may seem very woo woo, but there's a lot of science to back this up, that when you incorporate play into your day to day, you receive all of these things. And so, especially someone that had ADHD, and at the time it wasn't something that I spoke openly about. So here I am, struggling, trying to keep up and keep all of these things at bay, and I'm not doing the thing that our mutual friend Kirsten Milliken talks about in her book Play ADHD. I wasn't doing the thing that was going to help me. So
Right.
there you have it.
Yes, fantastic. And do you feel like going to improv every week, that the practice of it or the consistency of it was important to keep reminding yourself of it and having somebody give you kind of permission to play?
Agreed. Yes, that was it was key, because it was just almost like it was that dose of medicine, every week. I had 2 hours of complete presence. There's no technology. We're engaging, we're playing around, we're having fun. And one of the things that which got me into the work that I'm doing now is that I started seeing how the games that we're playing actually, how I can apply it outside of the theater,
Yes.
because I have this belief: how you do anything is how you do everything. And so when you're in this sort of playful environment, playing these silly games that are teaching you how to listen better, how to make the people that you're around look good, like, you can't just turn that off. I guess you can once you leave the theater, but like, it becomes ingrained in you, because it reminds me of a stat by Dr. Karen Previs, and she studied children and how children learn through play. And she said to create a synapse in the brain
Mm.
takes 400 repetitions normally. However, if you incorporate play, you can shortcut that to 20 repetitions.
That's a fantastic statistic. So when you go into businesses and you try to, strategically sell play through productivity and
Yes,
engagement, then does that light them up when they hear this statistic? That's great.
agreed.
Yeah.
Especially because most adults,
Yes.
when you hear about play, they had the same sort of thing mindset that I did. Is like, oh, we don't have time for that. And so you're absolutely right. I had to mask it as
Yes.
personal development, as productivity, as all of those other things. And by the way that I deliver it is through play. And by doing it that way, it's going to secure your investment, because you're going to ensure that your learners are going to actually retain this information and use it at a further date.
Yes. I talk to teachers and some leaders, and I say it as you can't have an aha without a ha-ha, which helps them remember it. I almost want to make a t-shirt on that to remind people, but it's helpful. And it doesn't diminish your professionalism or your authority to bring in play and laughter, right?
Agreed. And matter of fact, I feel like it enhances it.
Yes.
I did another talk for Creative Mornings where I was talking about what I call Play Plus.
Mm.
Play is that condiment that makes everything taste better. When
Mm.
you add a sprinkle of play, Mary Poppins said it, for every job that must be done, add an element of fun and snap, the
Yes.
job's a game. That's
Yes.
the thing. When you are playing, you're actually, because of the vulnerability and the safetiness that it creates, you're actually allowing yourself to be your real self. Like, for example, I thought I needed to be a professional, so I was putting on the mask of a professional, and I was sort of suffocating the part of myself that wanted to be seen, because I
Mm.
didn't think it was worthy.
Yes.
And I was sort of, putting that aside. And I wasn't being my true self, because I wanted to be seen as a certain way, because I figured that was the best way to be, um, you know, seen as a professional or get approval. And I feel like most people are doing that. And
Yes.
that is taking up valuable resources, because I have this belief that everything is energy,
Mm.
and energy is everything. So if you're using valuable valuable resources hiding yourself, how are you going to like be productive?
Yes.
Because energy is everything and everything's energy. And so, as a way to remember this, the people who are listening to the audio podcast, just know that energy is everything
And then if
and
you check it up
everything
on
is energy.
YouTube, yes, if you can check it up on YouTube, he's holding up a little sign. Every
Yes. And,
energy. And
and so, this one of the things where it's look at it, energy is everything and everything is energy.
whoa, he just did a magic trick. You got to check this out. That's cool. Oh, wow. Yes, you have many talents. And it's reminding me of a podcast I just heard from Brene Brown, who said that the biggest challenge of leadership is not the fear, but the armor we wear. And it's not, it's not ourselves. It doesn't feel authentic. And frankly, we can't even sustain this, right? I can't sustain a level of, perfectionism or whatever. I'm not going to hold it. So it's not true. And then it feels and then it feels like I'm an imposter. And then I go down the shame shit show cycle. And before I know it, I'm not leading well at all. Yeah. So if I could lead with vulnerability and laughter and messiness, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So good. And so when you go into companies and you're sitting in front of a room for the first time with people who probably haven't played or had permission to play in maybe years, possibly even decades, what's your favorite way to just warm them up and get those juices flowing?
Yeah. So it's all about, you bring up a really great point, Pasha, is that we, you can't just force someone to play. They have to be invited to play and they have to be willing to play.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are dealing with people that are suffering from play deprivation, the first thing that I do is I create the rules of the playground. I said these are our agreements. Again, to create this feeling of psychological safety that hey, guess what? We're going to make mistakes. It's all good. Can we all agree that it's all about being present? We're going to accept and build on ideas. Once you lay out the rules of the game,
Mm-hmm.
you start to get those nods, and people are like, all right, cool. Then it's all about easing people in. So I love doing something that it feels playful, but it doesn't require a lot of sort of putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be as simple as, hey, guess what? We're going to collaborate on a story. All you have to do is say yes. I'm going to tell the story, and then and I'm asking questions, and people are saying yes, yes, yes. Like it, for example, I'll say, hey, should we tell a story about a knight in shining armor? Everyone's like,
Yeah.
yes, all right, cool. Is that knight trying to rescue a damsel in distress? Yes. Does the knight battle a dragon?
Yes.
Yes. Does the knight save the damsel in distress? Yes. Do they live happily ever after? Yes. And then just again by everyone just sort of engaging, it's very playful. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's quick. It's easy, and it creates that moment of connection.
Yes.
And that's what's essential. Is that, and this is when I work with leaders, I say imagine that when you start your talk, especially because of everything that people have, they have their armor.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do they have their armor, they have a beehive on their head. How effective do you think your talk is going to be
Mm.
with that environment?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Probably not that good because, again, they're distracted with thoughts. They have armor on, so they're just like, all closed up. But imagine if you take a moment and build connection, you're building rapport through play,
Mm-hmm.
and you could dissolve all of that. Imagine how much more effective that talk will be because now the people are ready to receive it.
Yes. And I could see how this would translate so well to teachers at schools and parents at home with their kids. It's everything. It's everything is energy and energy is everything. And play is
Yes.
everything. Yes. And so how do you incorporate? I just talked to speaking of ADHD, Ari Tuckman, who wrote Adult ADHD and ADHD After Dark. Just did a
Yes.
podcast. It'll be coming up soon. And we talked about how to incorporate play into our relationships and to keep them engaged. And so for you and for people you work with, how do you see that working out, like bringing play into the home life?
Well, I don't know who said this, but I
Me.
heard.
I'm just
You know what? Let's just give you credit because you probably said this. Couples that play together stay together.
I didn't say that, but it's a really good idea.
Yes. Well, and it's true.
It's
And it goes back to the work of researcher Jane McGonigal.
mm,
She wrote a few amazing books. One, Reality is Broken, Super Better. And she, for decades, have been studying the effects of play
mm,
on everything. And this is something that's very fascinating, very interesting. When you play, you're in this state that is um it's almost like an imaginary state, because in order to play you have to leave your sort of beliefs and stuff at the door and suspend that for the rules of the game. Example, if anyone's ever played golf, the rules of golf are ridiculous. You have a small ball and a stick and you're trying to get the ball into a hole 350 yards away. That is not effective. That's not an effective way of doing it. Yet we do it because that's the rules of the game. So again, going back to play,
yes.
when you're playing, especially in groups, whether it's a romantic relationship or family dynamic or team dynamic, when you're playing, you are bonding. And
Mm,
they say that if you were to have like EKG machines, the wavelengths of all the people in the session will start to line up.
mm,
That's a normal consequence of having that playful moment. The other cool thing is you're creating all the neurochemicals that make you like the other person. Dopamine,
mm-hmm.
oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. That's like the I like to call the angel's cocktail. That when you're done, you're like, wow, you know what? We had a great experience.
Yeah.
You were there. I must like you. Like, I like this experience. You were there, so I must like you. So we must be cool. And again, it's all through the power of play.
Yes, I could see how that would lead straight into some beautiful conversation. I'm thinking about partnership and
Mm-hmm.
intimacy. Yes, and that you can incorporate play. I think sprinkling it into even challenging days is one of the things I work on all the time. And how well kids respond to it, and it shifts everything. If you're trying to get a kid to do their homework or take their medicine, and you just incorporate a little bit of play into it, so much easier. And it's a practice. And I'm so glad I have it now. I think we were starting with I put a disco ball in the bathroom, so teeth brushing time would be a little more fun. And we turn off the lights, we brush our teeth, the disco ball, and we sometimes dance. And yesterday, I think you saw this on Instagram, I just got rid of our dining room table and I put a ping pong table there instead. And my son walked downstairs. He's like, why is there a ping pong table in our dining room? I said, who says this is a dining room? This is a game room. And he's like, where are we going to eat dinner? I said, we're going to eat dinner at the ping pong table. And we're playing just before we do some boring homework, or we're playing just before we do a chore, take some medicine.
Yeah.
Shifted everything in the last 24 hours. So there's always ways to bring it in. And I think that holds people up. Like, one, they don't have time, or they don't have energy, or it isn't valued in their home, but you can create it and you can make it
Yes.
part of your lifestyle and shift it at any time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things where it's all about a state of being.
Yes.
And we are all wired for play, and we need to create that state where we go back to our normal state of being.
Mm,
And I like to say, we need to find our way back to the playground, because I said earlier, and I learned this from a mentor of mine. Her name is Gwen Gordon. And she was the one who taught me about the different lenses that we see the world through. That we either see the world as a proving ground, as a battleground, or a playground. And so I was curious about that. Again, I used to have that mindset of like, oh, it's another thing I have to add to the, to our to-do list, and
mm,
you're already overwhelmed as it is. And I said, there has to be a process or a practice, if you will, that will inherently get us back to that state of playfulness. And after sort of studying playful people, and thinking back in the moments when I was the most playful, I realized there are four virtues that if you practice on a daily basis, helps you be playful more often than not.
Okay, I can't wait for this.
And
Good.
so, yeah, let's just dive in. So the first one, and this one is very challenging, but it's a necessity. And Brene Brown talks about this too. This is all about um, committing to joy. And
Mm,
what that means is you commit to doing the things that are going to bring you joy, because joy compared to happiness is more intrinsic.
mm,
I feel like happiness is circumstantial. I got a new car that made me happy. 6 months from now, the level of happiness is not going to be the same. But there's something about joy that lights you up from the inside out. So that's the first one. And as it pertains to committing to joy, I have this belief that joy can coexist with other complex emotions, like, for example, grief or
absolutely.
sorrow.
Absolutely.
Your son has a condition, and we'll talk about the third one in just a moment, and this a big one. But your son has a condition; you can't change that, and there's probably moments of pain. However, committing to joy, committing to the things that are going to bring joy, like having some moments of ping pong, is going to help you get through that. And again, those two things can coexist at the same time. It
Absolutely.
doesn't mean, and most people sort of delay it. They're like, well, I'll do joy after we get through the pandemic. Right now we're in the pandemic, and that's not thriving, that is
No.
just barely surviving. And that
Yes.
brings me to virtue number two, and you're a master of this too: maximizing power-ups. And
Mm,
what I mean is, again, energy is everything, and everything is energy. People that are playful are mindful of their energy levels. They're
yes.
mindful of the energy that they need to do certain tasks. So as a result, they're going to do the things that are going to give them the energy so that they can do that. I'm
Yes.
someone that is thriving with ADHD, and I know that when I have to do boring things like invoicing or whatever, I better as hell make it fun, or
Yeah.
else it's not going to get done.
I'm going to sit outside and listen to birds while I do it. Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Again, maximizing power ups. How
Yes.
can you power yourself up so that you can be the best version of yourself? And that might mean getting more rest,
Mm,
because I found that, and this is true, that when you're in a stressful state, you're going to be less likely to want to play. And that's true for all mammals, as when you're fight, flight, or freeze, your limbic system's taking over, you're not being creative, and you're not going to want to play because you're in survival mode. And the quickest way out of that is to give yourself what you need. Again, maximizing power ups means doing what is necessary. And sometimes that is saying, you know what? I'm not going to play right now. I'm going to rest right now because this is what my body needs.
yes. Yes.
And that brings me to number three. And this is important. This is just accepting reality. Playful people realize that there are things within our control and things outside of our control. If you play any sort of game, whether it's a video game or sports game or whatever, there, you have to accept that sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not, but that doesn't keep you from playing.
Right. Right.
And like, again, I want to just take a moment and acknowledge and admire you, Pasha, is that you could have just been, oh, these are circumstances, and woe is me. But you accepted reality,
Hmm.
and you said, not only do I accept that, you did what we do in improv. You yes and that. You said, yes, this is true.
Hmm.
And we're not going to let that define us. We're going to experiment. We're going to play around with strategies to help us thrive.
Yes.
And playful people do that.
Yes.
And then by doing all of that, then you make way for the fourth virtue, and that is seeking out invitations to play. And
Nice.
so that is, looking for people that are playmates to go play. That is also looking at the universe as the universe is one big playmate, and maybe some of the things that showed up in your existence is an invitation to be playful.
Mm.
It's all about how you look at it. And some people may look at, I was talking to a friend, excuse me, who is an author and was dealing with some trolls, not just the cute trolls that you see on TV. These are the trolls on the internet that just want nothing but
Haters.
yes, right, the haters. And I said, imagine if you saw that as an invitation to play.
Yes.
What would you do differently?
Yes.
And so those are the four virtues. And I look at it as a practice in
Mhm.
that, it's something that you have to do on a day-to-day basis. How can you exercise and practice these virtues, so that you can bring yourself to being playful and at the end of the day be the best version of yourself? Who wouldn't want that?
Absolutely. And speaking to the fourth one, that it can often be in the most unexpected of places. If you are like, oh, I have to go to the doctor today, you could say, what if the hospital were a playground? What could I find playful about going to the hospital? And the humor in it, and just in the ridiculousness of the anything from the decor to those paper gowns they make you make, but all the toys in the room when the doctor isn't looking, there's a whole lot to play with in there. And so
Yes.
you can make it fun. You can make it fun, but it does take practice, because I think if I didn't see the world through the lens of humor and laughter and play, I would be stuck in grief. And sometimes I forget, even though I teach it every day, sometimes I forget. So to your fourth one, I think, finding playmates, like I have to find people like you and like my friend Kirsten. It's like, remind me of something fun. Remind me of what's fun or funny about anything. Just tell me anything of a joke, or send me a meme, or remind me of something I've said, because sometimes we need people to mirror that back and to open up the opportunity for us to access that part of ourselves that gets lost so quickly.
Yes. And again, energy is everything. Everything is energy,
Yes.
and emotions are contagious. So,
Yes.
and it's like one of those things where, again, if you follow, and I love Star Wars, I'm a big fan. So I call this being a play rebel,
Like,
uh, because it seems counterintuitive, especially to like our normal state of being of like, no, we have to be serious right now because we're at work or something like that. And I said, well, imagine if you could rebel playfully, and but the whole point is to bring joy
mm,
and to bring all those good things, to the world, because most of the time when you're at work, you don't think that you can be playful. So I said, well, how about you rebel? Let's rebel. Let's be playful. I find that very interesting. An act of playful rebellion is something that are going to bring people together. And sometimes you have to rebel against yourself, because sometimes yourself, you think it's doing it for your own good, but it's just trying to keep you safe. But you're right. When you're in grief, um, I'm not one, I think all emotions are necessary, and it's like the weather, they come to flow through. But
mm,
I like to say it's okay to be a mess. You just
absolutely.
can't stay there.
Right. Right. We do this. My kid comes down often, what comes downstairs with his just blanket over his head, like, "Argh," and we say, are you Darth Vader or are you Obi-Wan right now?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and he's both often, but he either responds with like some Darth Vader noise, or he takes out his hood, he takes out his lightsaber, and we start to play. And he's the light, or he's the darkness, or he's both, and he's the paradox. And yeah, finding way. I love that you bring Star Wars into it too. we bring that imagery in as well. And I've heard you say that play is the opposite of work. And I think you also mentioned, because there's been a couple phrases, play is the opposite of depression, and lately I've heard play is the opposite of
yes,
perfection. And like, I'm like, yes
yes.
to all that, yes to all that. Which one do you usually refer to it
Yeah,
as?
it's both perfection and depression, because there are barriers to play, and I feel like those are some of the key barriers. Trying to be perfect, that's a barrier to play, because again, play is messy.
Yes.
Play, if you're trying to be perfect, you're not going to be playing, because play is all about getting dirty. Play is all about experimentation. Play is all about uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're, again, the Brian Sutton Smith, who coined that, the opposite of work isn't play. or the opposite of play isn't work, the opposite of play is depression. It's true, because if you think about when you're in work, and you are doing something, again, play is doing something for the sake of doing it.
Hmm.
So the act of doing it is the reward in and of itself. So if you're working and you are solving problems, if you're being creative, you're probably going to get into this state of flow
Yes.
where time is just passing by and you are solving challenges and it's enjoyable. Well, guess what? You're working and playing. They are coexisting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I love that feeling of time flying by. And the things we did in childhood where time flew by could potentially be the things that we can access now in adulthood, right? In some way, we could reframe them or tweak them
Yep.
to simulate that same experience. But I feel like every adult needs something in their life that lights them up so much that time passes by.
Yes. And you
Even if
need to
it's
follow your compass of joy. That's what
yeah,
it's all about. It's that internal GPS that
yeah,
I guess, inherently turn off because we think that, um, there's a lot of play shame where we're like, oh no, I'm not supposed to do that, or whatever the case may be. And so you're right. We turn that off, and then, you know, we are sort of like zombies going through life, and who wants that?
right. And you challenge people. You do play challenges. Tell us about
Yes.
those.
Yeah, and so my most recent play challenge was called the Playful Rebellion Challenge, and the point about that was trying to get adults to rebel against the status quo of work and adulting
Yeah.
using the power of play and the four virtues that I told you about earlier. And it was really interesting. So it was a 30-day challenge, and as of this recording, it is just finishing, and we had about 160 people sign up and about 60 to 70 actually actively participate in a 30-day challenge.
Wow.
And it was so amazing to see the transformations that were taking place.
Mm,
um, and it's one of those things where I feel like it's through mindset shifts and tiny practices you can sort of light this up in people, because it was interesting where like I said, 160 people said, "Oh, this sounds interesting," but
mm,
when it got started, and then now you're like, "All right, there's these things." It
mhm.
was the people who were open to playing, open to seeing the world through another lens, were the ones who really got into it and took the tiny steps. And then after 30 days, I had some people private message me and say, couples therapy went better
Yes.
because of this sort of mindset. I'm like, oh, awesome, cool, I love it. All right, let's keep going. Someone said, you know what I did today? I normally don't do this, but I told my kids, all right, what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do, I'm all game. And
Mm,
and again, seeking out invitations to play, and embraced all of that. And they said that it was so much fun and liberating.
mm. Those are wonderful testimonials. Better parents, better lovers because of 30
Right?
days of a play challenge.
I know, right? Imagine this. This is the thing where a lot of times, like, it's all about that comfort zone, right? And there's uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen. But imagine if you embrace the playful mindset, and yeah, your partner said, "Hey, why don't we try this?" It doesn't necessarily have to be sexual. It could be anything,
Right.
but where you would typically say no just for reasons, of safety and not wanting to look stupid.
Hmm.
And imagine that you realize that, oh, this is an opportunity for us to connect on a deeper level, regardless of what happens. It's not like the event is the event, but it's bigger than that. It's the fact that your partner is inviting you to play,
Yes.
and you're having this moment together where you're connecting and bonding. And like, imagine the possibilities if that was like the normal practice in a relationship, compared to, for safety, you say no, and sort of do that, and that becomes the norm. Well, how is that going to be conducive to a healthy relationship? Because I have a feeling that out of love or whatever, the partner's probably going to stop inviting you to play.
Yes, right, right. They'll continue to feel that resistance. Sometimes my husband and I use Brene Brown again. The story I'm telling myself is, but we do it in a playful game way. It's always an interesting, deep, and revealing conversation. But we're like, all right, let's play that game. The story I'm telling myself is the reason you didn't hug me is because you're angry or whatever the situation. Like, oh no, I just didn't want to walk upstairs or whatever it was, and we can gain a new understanding of each other. And to do that through play makes it feel safer, easier to say, easier to hear, easier to engage in. So
Yeah, that's a naturally playful way of having a difficult conversation.
yes, yes,
Because one, typically when that happens, when you don't have that, it's a
yes,
lot of judgment, and it's a lot, like, again, you're coming from a place of fear and scarcity and stuff like
exactly.
that, and then the other person naturally puts on the other one. And
Yes.
if anyone who's listening have heard of transactional analysis, might be familiar with this work. It's the book I'm spacing on the author, but the title of the book is called Games People Play,
Okay.
and it's all about these scenarios that are very predictable. And the book is very interesting because it puts all of these predictable situations into a game, which essentially, there's two players in this game, and usually, well, no, in this book of transactional analysis, because of the situation, someone is being put into a metaphoric parent situation, the other person is being put into a metaphoric child situation, and they're not having an adult to adult situation, and that's happening on an unconscious level. And the
Mm-hmm.
cool thing about play and that playful way of having that conversation is that, boom, it busts open everything because we have that vulnerability. We're not thinking about ourselves. We have rules to play by. And you're right. It allows us to have a very difficult conversation in a lighter way. And we will get what we ultimately want, is to be heard
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
validated as well.
Yes. Yes. And for parents who are perhaps having to have difficult, I'm thinking about like the sex talk right now, having difficult conversations with our kids, like finding ways to make it, you're not like face to face sitting, at the dining room, we have to talk now, but perhaps it's while you're playing cards or while you're playing the game of life. Do you happen to bring it up? The other day, and I think a lot of parents hold, and maybe I'll just speak for myself. I hold a lot of shame for how much screen time is going on in my house. For my kid, that's his distraction, that's his way to numb out and his pleasure. I probably do too much online just to distract myself from the grief. And we were trying to figure out like what kind of game can we play without a screen or without a device. And we're sitting down at the dinner table, and sometimes we play cards, but we started to we were just like, let's just make friends with this idea that Alexa's like in our life. So Alexa, name a number between 1 and 4, random number. And Alexa says a number. And we had lined up all of my son's vegetables that he hates to eat on the plate. No problem. Once Alexa just named out 2, he ate the second one in line. Alexa, give us a random number between 1 and 4. 4. He ate the fourth one. No resistance whatsoever. Like all of a sudden, something that's such a struggle every single night became a game. And it helped me also. I was like, all right, there are ways to do this parenting thing through difficult conversations, through difficult moments, letting go of the shame of technology, letting go of the shame of judgments. And doing it perfectly. It was liberating to me. I know it seems like a small thing, but we're like, okay, we got this. And we just sneak it in as much as we can.
Well, see, that is such a powerful thing, and it really goes back to what we said at the top of the show of when you're in a play like state, you will suspend
Yes.
all belief for the rules of the game.
Yes.
And it's so powerful how this works, and because it's activating a different part of our brain,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, all right, cool, here's the rules of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting fact, my 4-year-old lately has been having like just some separation anxiety of like not wanting to be separate from us, especially with all that's going on and in the world and stuff like that. And it's we're trying to sort of keep him informed of what's going on, and not necessarily shelter him, but do it in a gentle way.
Mm.
But still, like he's sort of scared. And then plus there was a fire in the neighborhood recently, and that was kind of scary. Like we were completely safe, but again, energy is everything, everything's energy, like that sort of thing, like sort of
Yeah.
affected him. And so he was going through a thing where he, like, if he wanted to go get something out of his room, like, no, mama, dada, you come too. And
Mhm.
want to support, but at the same time we're like, dude, all the lights are on, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, like you can do it.
Right.
However, we don't want to do that. And so it was really interesting. Made it a game. I was like, hey, how about I time you? All right, here we go. All right,
Yes.
on your mark, cassette, like. And once you know what people's sort of play personality is, Dr. Stuart Brown in his book, he talks about the different play personalities. You can activate that. And it was so interesting. He went from being scared again in the limbic system to being invited to play. So now we're getting into the prefrontal cortex and we're getting all that sort of activated. And he like sprinted to his room
I've
and came back with it. And we're like, all right, cool. Again, it's it was a game, and he suspended all like sort of fear and stuff like that for the rules of the game.
Yes. Yes, and now you could probably use that lots of times with a 4-year-old. You could probably do that over and over hundreds of times, and it'll still be fun. As they get to
Yes.
become teenagers, they're like, "Yeah, I know that trick."
I know.
Like,
Right. Exactly.
my son still, because a tick bit him, which got him really sick, he's scared of all bugs, like even a ladybug. So he won't go upstairs by himself at 13. He's bigger than me, he won't go
Hmm.
upstairs. So we honor his fear. We honor the scary big ladybug, and we give him a lightsaber. Back to Star Wars, this is all circling back
Yep.
to Star Wars. Give him a lightsaber, like, come on, let's go up there, let's attack the ladybug. We start swinging the lights,
Agreed.
and
Yeah.
then we go up, we're like, we get you're scared, let's do this. And then he takes his power back. Now of course we're laughing, the ladybug looks really small, and we just have to think of something new each time, which is a challenge but also fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, it shifts everything.
Everything.
I love honoring, in my therapeutic comedy work, I love honoring people's grief and trauma
Hmm.
and sadness, and finding the edges of humor and play around any situation, even death. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's so empowering. So
It
empowering.
is. Yeah. Again, it goes back to what I said. The third virtue is, acceptance of reality.
Yes.
That is their reality. And uh, like I have this belief that people have their own map of reality, not yours. So just because it doesn't seem true to me doesn't mean that it's not true to someone else. And in order to, like, again, navigate the world, you need to acknowledge people's map of reality, and it may not be in alignment with yours.
Right.
It doesn't mean that yours is less true or theirs is less true. It doesn't matter. It's like, again, let's just accept this is where it is, and that's how we can move on. And once you accept that, instead of trying to command, control, and comply,
Yeah.
then you get into that playful spirit.
Yes. I love that idea of accepting it. And in that, there's a remaining curious to the other person's
Mhm.
reality, um, and aware and empathetic to it as well, and then playing into it. That's beautiful. This is beautiful. This is so helpful for work and relationships and parenting. And then I often say, like, you're just going to have a lot more fun if you learn to play with yourself, because
Agreed.
right.
Yes. Yes. No. So, like, agreed. Like, again, sort of like, what else can we sort of other sort of myths can we sort of smack down with the power of play? It's like, no, yeah. And I feel like this is one of the things too. And a quick plug to
Yeah, plug away. This is a time when I'm like, hey, how can everybody
no.
read Gary? And
Well, this is a plug for a good friend of mine, Mark and Angel Chernoff. They just wrote a new book called 1,000 Little Habits,
mm,
and it's the interesting thing is all about like relationships and stuff like that. But the first thing that they say in here is that it starts with you. I don't, it starts with you. That's the first thing. And, they also talk about joy in here and how you need to put your own mask on first. You need to take
Mm-hmm.
care of yourself
Mm-hmm.
before, before you can do all these other things. And two, you can't expect other people to change. Like you have to accept reality
Mm-hmm.
and just say, this is what it is. And that for some people is challenging,
Yep.
especially when someone that you love so dearly maybe is suffering or having something like that. You feel like by you also sort of taking on that energy, you're doing them a service, but are you really?
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. And I love it. You could do it in 100,000 different tiny little habits, tiny little
Little
ways, right?
tiny tiny.
Yes, but it adds up cumulatively. Like in your 30-day challenge, there was probably 30 tiny little challenges that turned into a better counseling session or a better day of parenting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like compound interest if you know about math.
I don't
uh
I don't know about
Neither do I. That's like not my jam.
two
But
ADHD people talking math. Now we're going deep into right now,
no, no,
Gary.
no. I was like, anyways, yes,
Freedom. edit. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how to.
yes, I know, right?
But compounding, I can understand.
Yes.
So, Gary, I love following your work. I've watched your TED Talks. I've been on your website. I just follow you on Instagram and Facebook and all the places. Where is the easiest place for people to find you and access all of your brilliance?
Yeah, you could go to my website breakthroughplay.com. From there, there are multiple paths to the playground where we can play. All my links to all the social medias and whatnot. And if the talks about my 30-day play challenge interests you, you can go to breakthroughplay.com/playful rebellion. Um, and that's where you can get on the list so that you can be the first to know the next time I run another 30-day play challenge, because this one is almost over. And then we're going to take a little break and we're going to reset. And then we'll probably do another one here shortly. Yeah, love to have you on the playground.
You're practicing what you preach. You're resting before you do another challenge.
Of course. Yep.
I love it. Thank you so much, Gary, for joining us today.
My
And
pleasure.
yes.
Right? This has been we've just been playing. We've just been playing, and time just flew by. Like seriously, I could do this all day, every day with you.
Me too. Me too. It is in my pleasure to talk to you. It is in my pleasure to play. It is in my pleasure to reframe my stories through the lens of humor. And please do reach out to Gary, everyone out there. And if you want to continue the conversation with me, you could find me at pashamarlow.com and all the places through Pasha Marlow, Instagram and Facebook. And I'm looking for a pleasure sponsor, which doesn't only mean sex toys, like anything related to that's fine too, but play or pleasure, laughter, yeah, bring it. So looking for a podcast sponsor, everyone out there. and subscribe so you can find out about all these cool new episodes coming up. Yay. Thank you, Gary. Good to see
Thank you.
you. Bye.